You are getting back more mud than you are sending down. That well is not sitting quiet. It is testing you. Shut it in. Give me 10 minutes to check it. And if I am wrong, I will hand you the brush myself. No. And never say another word. There is my answer. You are done. Off my tour. Off my rig at the crew change. Go pack your bag before I have somebody pack it for you. You can pour out my water. You cannot pour out what that well is telling you. And it is telling you the same thing it told me 2 hours ago. It is coming up. Listen to this guy. 30 years ago, maybe you were something, old timer. Tonight, you are a deck monkey with a mop and a bad case of nerves. And I have a total depth to hit before the morning tour. And I do not have room out here for a scared old man spooking my crew with feelings. This is just a feeling.
It is arithmetic. You are getting back more than you send down, and there is exactly one thing in the world that does that. Jed kept his voice level, low, the voice you use so a frightened room does not hear its own fear in yours. Shut it in. 10 minutes. That is the whole ask. You do not get 10 minutes. You get a crew change. Corbin jabbed a finger toward the crew quarters. Stay out of my sight until the boat comes. Somebody get him off my floor. Behind Corbin, the radio on the doghouse wall crackled with the beach. Corbin, this is Kane. Where is my total depth? You were supposed to be through that section 2 hours ago. Every hour you sit there costs this company more than you make in a year. Are we drilling or are we having a feeling circle out there? We are drilling. We are almost there. Corbin said it into the radio too fast, and Jed watched the young man's shoulders climb toward his ears and understood something that took the sharpest edge off his anger. The kid was not the top of anything. The kid was a man being squeezed from a bright, dry room 100 miles away and passing the squeeze down to the only person on the rig lower than himself, which tonight was an old roustabout with a mop. It did not make it right. It made it sadder. She is pushing you to make a number, Jed said quietly, just to Corbin, off the radio. I have been on both ends of that voice, son. A number is a thing you can always make tomorrow. What is coming up that hole, you only get to be wrong about one time. Get off my floor, Bracken. Nobody moved to touch him. That was the thing Corbin would think about later. 12 men on that deck, and not one of them would put a hand on the old roustabout, because some animal part of them had heard the word he used, returns, and had felt the deck under their boots the way you feel a floor that is not quite steady. Jed picked up his overturned bucket. He did not argue. He had learned a long time ago, in the worst possible way, how to make himself small and quiet and gone. He walked off the drill floor with gray water still running around his boots, past the young floor hand named Brady Odell, who was 22 years old and had not said a word, and who watched the old man go with a look on his face like he had just seen something he could not name. None of them knew that the man they were watching walk away, the deck monkey with the mop and the bad opinions, was the single most valuable human being on that rig. Not close. 20 years ago, when a well went out of control anywhere in the world, in the Gulf, off Africa, in the high Arctic, there was a short list of men that companies would put on a jet at 2 in the morning and fly across an ocean to kill it. Jed Bracken had been at the top of that list. Operators did not say his name. They said, get Bracken, the way you say a prayer you are not sure you believe in but are going to say anyway because nothing else is left. Some nights the man scrubbing the deck is the only man who can save it. Nobody on the Calypso knew tonight was going to be one of those nights. Nobody except the old man who had felt it coming up through his boots for the last 2 hours and had said so and had been sent to pack his bag for the trouble. The young floor hand caught up with him in the passageway to the crew quarters. Brady Odell had a face that had not yet learned to hide anything, and right now it was caught between fear and apology. Mr. Bracken, that thing you said about the returns. Brady kept his voice down. I have only been on rigs 2 years, but my uncle drilled 30 of them. He used to say the exact thing you said, that a well tells you before it tells the gauges, and that the men who lived to retire were the ones who listened to the deck under their boots and not the numbers on the screen. He swallowed. Corbin says you are just a scared old man. You did not look scared out there. You looked like the only one who was not. Jed stopped. He looked at the kid, really looked, and for a second something crossed his face that Brady could not read, because Brady did not know he was being looked at by a man who was seeing, in his place, a 19-year-old from 11 years ago. How old are you, son? 22. Your mother know you are out here? She worries. I call her Sundays. Brady almost smiled. She thinks the ocean is going to swallow me. I keep telling her the ocean is the safe part. Your mother is smarter than you, Jed said, and it was not unkind. Listen to me. If anything happens on this rig tonight, anything at all, you find me, not Corbin, me. You understand, I am the deck monkey with the mop. I am also the last man on this steel you want to be standing next to if that well decides to prove me right. Brady gave an uncertain laugh. You really think something is going to happen? I have been wrong about a lot of things in my life, Jed said. I have never once been wrong about a well. That is the whole tragedy of me, kid. Go finish your tour. Keep your radio on. I went down to the crew quarters. He did not pack. He sat on the edge of his bunk in the dark and he took out of his shirt pocket the one thing he carried everywhere, which was a watch. It was a good watch once. It did not run anymore. The hands had stopped at 11 minutes past 2 on a morning 11 years ago, and he had never wound it again, and he could not have told you why he still wore a watch that did not keep time, except that it kept the only time that had ever really mattered to him, and he was not ready to let it start moving again. People assumed a man kept a stopped watch out of grief, and they were not wrong, but it was not the whole of it. He kept it because a watch that does not move cannot lie to you. It stays honest. It sits there and it says every single time you look at it, this is the moment. This is the exact moment. Do not you dare forget what it cost. He had been afraid, for 11 years, that if he ever let it run again, he would start to forget the 4 men whose time had also stopped that morning. And forgetting had felt like a thing he did not have the right to do. His phone had one bar, the way it did on the good nights. He called the number he called every night at the change of tour, and a 14-year-old answered on the second ring, because she always waited up on his rig nights, even though she pretended she did not. Hey, Junie. You sound weird. What happened? Nothing happened. Long tour. He rubbed his face. How was the algebra? I got the B. You owe me pancakes. A pause, the way she always knew. Dad, what happened? A young man decided he did not need my help tonight, Jed said. And he is probably right. Go to bed, kid. I fly home day after tomorrow. I will make the pancakes. You always say the well talks to you, Junie said, sleepy, not knowing she was saying the truest thing anyone would say all night. Is the well talking to you? Jed was quiet for a second. Go to bed, Junie, he said. I love you. Lock the door. He hung up. He sat in the dark a while, and he did not pack his bag, and he told himself it was because he was tired. But the truth was in his boots, and his boots had been telling him the same thing for 2 hours. The thing he had told Corbin, the thing nobody had wanted to hear. The well was not finished talking. It had only been clearing its throat, and he was still sitting there in the dark with a dead watch in his hand when the alarm went off, and then went silent halfway through, the wrong way, the way an alarm goes when someone reaches up and silences it because they do not want to believe what it is telling them. Jed Bracken was on his feet before the sound finished dying. He knew that silence. He had heard it once before, 11 years ago, and he had spent every night since wishing to God he had moved faster the first time. I moved fast this time. He came up the stairs onto the drill floor and into a scene he had walked into in his nightmares for a decade. The well had come alive. He could hear it before he could see it. A low building roar down in the throat of the thing, mud coughing up out of the hole where mud should never move on its own, and men shouting over each other, and the deck lights swimming in a haze that should not have been there. The gauges Corbin had trusted were all screaming now, too late, telling him in red what an old man's boots had told him for free 2 hours ago. And Chad Corbin was standing in the middle of it, frozen, not lazy, not cruel, just 34 years old and coming apart, staring at a well that was not in any of his manuals, his hand halfway to a control he could not make himself throw because throwing it wrong would make it worse, and he no longer knew which way was worse. Around him the floor was coming undone. A young hand was hauling at a jammed door over and over, the same useless motion. One man was shouting the muster call, and another was shouting to ignore it. Merle the derrickman had both hands flat on the console like a man trying to hold a table still in an earthquake. And under all of it, under the alarms and the shouting and the wind, was that sound. The low freight train building in the throat of the well. The sound Jed Bracken heard in his sleep. The sound of a thing that did not care about anyone's title or anyone's model or anyone's total depth. A thing that asked the men above it only one question, which was, does anybody up there actually know what I am? Jed knew what it was. He had always known. That was the whole curse and the whole gift of him. Everybody says go to the boats. Corbin's voice cracked on it. We muster. We get off. We let it. Corporate can send a team. There is no time to send a team, and you cannot outrun this to a boat, Jed said. He did not shout it. He said it the way you talk to a man on a ledge. That well reaches open air and finds one spark off that steel, and there will not be a boat to run to. You have got minutes, son, maybe less. Who put you back on my floor? Nobody. I put me back on your floor. Jed was already moving, already reading the stack of it. The pressures, the sound, his eyes going where 30 years told them to go. You do not have to like me. You have to decide in the next 10 seconds whether you would rather be right about me or be alive. Because I can shut this well in. I have done it before, and I am the only man standing on this steel who has. And the men frozen at the edge of the floor did the arithmetic that men do in a crisis without knowing they are doing it. They saw an old man who had been kicked off this rig 8 hours ago, who owed it nothing, who could have been standing at the lifeboat station this very second with a clean conscience and a clear way off, and who had instead come up the stairs toward the one thing every nerve in a body screams at you to run from. You can fake a lot of things on a rig. You cannot fake that. A man who walks toward the well when he has every reason and every right to walk away is telling you something about himself that no title and no certificate ever could. They did not know yet that he was Jed Bracken. They already knew he was the only man on the Calypso moving the right direction. A radio on the console crackled. It was the beach, the onshore office, a woman's voice, clipped and certain and completely wrong. Calypso, this is Kane. What is your status? Are you still making hole? Marion Kane, 49 years old, drilling manager, sitting in a dry, bright room 100 miles away with the whole well laid out as clean numbers on a screen in front of her. Corbin, talk to me. The model does not show a kick this size. Your downhole data was nominal an hour ago. Do not overreact and do not shut in that well without my authorization. We are 400 feet off total depth and I am not losing this hole to nerves. Confirm you are still drilling. And there it was. The whole thing in one transmission. The voice on the beach looking at a beautiful clean model on a screen telling the men standing on the actual shaking steel that the well they could hear roaring under their boots did not exist because her data said so. An old hand named Merle, the derrick man, 40 years on the rigs, grabbed the radio out of the cradle and keyed it with a shaking hand. Kane, your model is wrong. We are taking the well. We are, oh God. Merle's eyes came up and found the old roustabout standing at the edge of the floor, and something broke open in the old derrickman's face. Some memory finally arriving. Bracken, that is Jed Bracken standing right there. He said it into the radio, and then he said it to the whole floor louder, the way you announce the one thing that might save everyone. That is Jed Bracken. The Jed Bracken. He killed the Ambrose well. He killed the one in the Timor Sea nobody else would touch. We have got him. He is right here. He has been here the whole time scrubbing the deck. Every frightened face on that floor turned and looked at the old man with the mop calluses, and for 1 second the roar of the well was the only sound. Something changed in the space of that second. It was not hope, exactly. It was closer to the feeling of a drowning man whose foot finds the bottom. These were men who had been told for hours by a clean screen that everything was fine, and who had just felt everything stop being fine all at once. And now the oldest law of the oil patch had reached down and touched them. The law that says somewhere there is always one man who knows. And if you are very lucky on the worst night of your life, he is standing on your steel. They had spent the whole tour stepping around him. They had watched him carry a mop and a bucket. And it turned out the most dangerous well any of them would ever meet had put the one man alive who could kill it right there in their own crew, in coveralls emptying their trash, and they had come within a crew change of letting him fly home. Corbin looked at him too, and on the young supervisor's face was the specific sickening horror of a man realizing all at once exactly whose 10 minutes he had thrown in the water. Bracken. On the radio, Marion Kane's certainty faltered for the first time. Jed Bracken is on the Calypso? He is decommissioned. He has not been certified in 11 years. He is a deckhand. He has no authority to touch that well. Corbin, do not let him near the controls. That is an order. And then she did the thing that made her dangerous instead of merely wrong, which was to sound completely reasonable. Listen to me, all of you. I know it is loud down there. I know it feels like the end of the world when a well starts to breathe. Her voice steadied, warmed, a person trying to talk a room back from a ledge she genuinely could not see. But I have 4 downhole sensors and a live model and the best drilling data in this company on the screen in front of me, and every one of them says this well is inside its envelope. And you have a case of nerves and an old man who washed out 11 years ago telling you it is not. I am not your enemy. I am the only one in this whole situation looking at facts instead of fear. Do not let a scared crew and a broken legend cost 12 men their jobs over a reading that has not even confirmed. Stand down, let the data catch up to you. It was a good speech. She believed every word of it. That was the whole problem with Marion Kane, and with the beautiful clean screen in front of her, and with every voice that has ever been 100 miles from the shaking steel and certain that the numbers see more than the men. She was not cruel. She was just looking at a map and calling it the ground. And here is where it almost went wrong, because for one long second, Jed Bracken heard an order and 11 years of a stopped watch and 4 men in the ground. And something in him that had been trained by the worst night of his life reached for the old comfortable thing, which was to step back, to make himself small, to let the person with the title and the authority make the call and take the weight. He looked at the console. He felt his own hands, and he did not trust them, because the last time he trusted them under this exact pressure, he had let a company voice talk him out of what they knew, and men had died. His hands started to lower. And for that second, he was not on the Calypso at all. He was 11 years back on a different floor, with a different roar building in a different throat, and a company voice in his ear saying the numbers say, "It is fine, Bracken. Do not lose me the whole over a hunch." He was watching his own hand come off the control because a man with a title had told him to trust the screen instead of the steel. He had spent 11 years living inside that 1 second, replaying it, reaching for that control 1,000 times in his sleep, and never once getting there in time. And here it was again, the exact same second, handed back to him by God, or the sea, or whatever it is that gives a man the thing that broke him a second time, to see if he learned anything. Step back, let the title decide, make yourself small. It would be so easy, it was the easiest thing in the world, and he had gotten so very good at it. He almost did it. He almost stepped back one more time. "Mr. Bracken!" It was Brady Odell, the 22-year-old floor hand, and his voice was shaking, and he had come to stand right in front of the old man, right in the path of his eyes, so Jed could not look at the console without looking through the kid first. "You told Corbin 2 hours ago, on the deck. You said the well was talking. Everybody heard you. You were the only one who was right." The kid's jaw was trembling, but he did not move. "My mom is expecting me home Sunday, so I need you to do the thing you clearly know how to do, and I need you to do it now, and I do not care what the lady on the radio says, because the lady on the radio is not standing where we are standing." "The lady on the radio is not standing where we are standing." Jed looked at the boy, and for a second the boy was another boy, 19 years old, 11 years ago, who had also trusted the wrong voice because Jed had not fought hard enough for the right one. And the stopped watch in his pocket seemed to weigh 100 pounds, and then all at once it seemed to weigh nothing. "Okay," Jed said, "quiet." And then not quiet at all. In a voice the drill floor had not heard from him, a voice that had once made grown men on 3 continents move without asking why. "Okay, everybody who is not doing a job I give you in the next 30 seconds, off this floor back of the muster. Now." And men moved. That was the thing that would stay with Corbin for the rest of his life. An old roustabout with a mop had said one word in the right voice, and grown men who a minute earlier had been coming apart found their feet and went where he pointed, because terror is looking for exactly one thing in a moment like that, one person in the room who is not terrified, and Jed Bracken was the only man on that steel who was not "Fear will follow calm" anywhere. It is the oldest command there is. "Merle, you stay. Brady, you stay." Jed looked at the frozen young supervisor. "Corbin, you can be the man who froze, or you can be the man who helped. You have got about 2 seconds to pick, and I am not going to offer twice." Chad Corbin picked. Whatever else the young man was, he was not, in the end, willing to be the one who froze while an old man did his job for him. He wiped his face with the back of a shaking hand, and he said, "Tell me what you need." "Good," Jed said. "Now you are a driller. Kill everything on this floor that can make a spark. Everything. The lights on that side, the tools, the welder, anything with a motor or a flame, dead right now. We are going to make this the most boring piece of steel in the ocean." He was already at the console, his hands moving over it the way a pianist's hands find a keyboard in the dark. No hunting, no doubt. And the doubt that had been in them a minute ago was simply gone, burned off. "Merle, the well is trying to come up the path of least resistance. We are going to take that path away from it. On my word, not before. Brady, here. You are my legs. You go exactly where I point, you touch exactly what I say, and when I tell you to get off this floor, you do not argue with me, you do not be brave, you go. You have got a mother expecting you Sunday. That is an order, and it is the most important one I will give tonight. Say it back." "When you tell me to go, I go," Brady said. "Good man." The radio was still going, Marion Kane's voice climbing now, losing its clean edges. "Calypso, I have not authorized well control operations. You are exceeding, Corbin. I need you to reassert that well is inside tolerance. The data does not support." Jed reached over without looking and turned the volume down until the beach was a small tin whisper. And then he did the thing that the young man with the title could not, and the woman with the data would not, which was to trust 30 years of standing on shaking steel over a clean number on a dry screen 100 miles away. "The data does not support," Jed said, to no one to the well to 11 years ago. "The data never stands where we stand." What happened next happened in 90 seconds, and it did not look like a movie. It looked like four men and an old one working a set of controls in a haze, fast and quiet and exact, and it sounded like a voice calling short, hard words into the roar and other voices calling them back. Line it up. Lined up. Slow, slow. You bring it too fast, you break it. Merle, watch your pressure. You call it out to me every 10. You do not wait for me to ask. 1500. 16. Good. That is the well getting heavy. That is what we want. Brady, that valve at your right knee, quarter turn, no more, on my word. Jed's eyes were everywhere. On the gauges, on the men, on the throat of the well. Not yet, not yet. Corbin, how are my sparks? Floor is dead. Everything is dead. I killed all of it. Then the only thing in a hurry on this rig is the well, and we are about to take that away from it too. Jed's voice never rose past the flat, hard place it had found. Brady, now quarter turn, easy, and then your hands come off it. Done? Off. Merle, start bringing it down, slow. 1200, coming down, 13. No, Merle's voice climbed. No, it is turning around, it is coming back up. 15, 16, Jed, it is fighting, it is not taking. For 1 second, the whole floor felt the well gather itself underneath them, the way the sea draws back before it throws a wave, and Corbin made a sound that was almost a word, and Jed Bracken did not so much as blink. It is supposed to fight. That is the last thing a well does before it gives up. Everybody, hold your station. He did not raise his voice, and the not raising it was the only thing keeping 11 frightened men where they stood. Brady, off the floor, back of the muster, now! I can still help. I am not going to leave you out here alone. I can. You gave me your word. Jed still did not look up from the gauges, but the words went through the kid like a flat hand on the chest. When I say go, you go, because your mother is expecting you Sunday, and I am not spending you on this. This is the go. I have got the rest. Move, son. And Brady Odell, 22 years old, did the hardest thing a brave young man is ever asked to do, which is to obey an order to leave when every nerve in his body is screaming at him to stay, and he backed off that floor. And it meant that for the last 30 seconds, Jed Bracken had only his own life left on the steel to spend, and not the boys, and that was exactly how the old man wanted it. All right. Jed's hands were steady as stone. Now we do this my way, and my way is slow. Merle, bring it down again, and this time you do not chase it. You let it come to you. Let it push. Let it wear itself out on the steel. There you go. And on a drilling rig 100 miles from shore, at 4 in the morning, the roar that had been climbing the throat of the well hit the thing Jed had built to stop it, and it fought. The whole rig shuddering with it, the steel singing a note no one on that floor would ever forget. For a moment, nothing gave at all. The well pushed up and the men pushed down, and the two of them leaned against each other in the roar, and neither let go. It grumbled. It tested the men holding it the way it had tested Corbin's gauges 2 hours before, to see if anyone was still paying attention. And Jed Bracken stood at the console and held it, reading the pressures as they climbed and steadied, the way you hold a frightened animal still with nothing but your hands and your certainty until it decides to believe you. Corbin was at his shoulder, white, watching the needle tremble at the top of its climb. It is not going down. Bracken, it is not going down. Why is it not going down? Because it does not believe us yet. Jed did not move. A well is like a frightened man. You do not make it calm by being loud at it. You get quiet, you get still, you wait, and you let it find out that the thing holding it is not going to panic and is not going to let go. Watch the needle. Not like you are afraid of it, like you own it. And Corbin, who had been afraid of every needle on that console all night, made himself go still beside the old man and watch. And somewhere in those seconds he understood the thing no manual had ever taught him, which was that the calm was not something Bracken felt. It was something he had decided to be on purpose, so the men around him could borrow it until their own came back. The needle trembled, it held, and then, a hair at a time, it began to come down, and finally, the way a scream turns into a breath, the well went quiet. Hold, he said softly. Hold. That is it. You are done. You are shut in. Nobody move for 60 seconds. Let her settle. Let her know we mean it. 60 seconds. On a rig, 60 seconds can be a whole life. Nobody moved. The only sound was the wind, and the small tin whisper of the beach still asking for a status it was no longer entitled to. Then Merle let out a breath that seemed to come from his boots and said, "She is dead, Jed. The well is dead. You killed it." The drill floor made a sound then that Jed had heard exactly twice in his life, a sound crews make when they find out they are going to live, half a cheer and half a sob, men grabbing each other, and Brady Odell sat straight down on the steel with his back against the console and put his face in his gloves and shook. Jed did not celebrate. He never did. He walked the floor once, slow, touching things, checking things, the way a man walks a house after a fire that did not happen, and then he keyed the radio and turned the volume back up and spoke to the beach for the first and only time. Kane, this is Bracken. He was very tired and very calm. The well is shut in and stable. Your rig is going to go home with everyone on it. I want you to write down the time because I am going to want you to remember for the rest of your career that at this exact minute your data was telling 12 men that the thing about to kill them was inside tolerance. He paused. I have got nothing else to say to you tonight, but you are going to hear from a lot of people who do. The radio was silent a long moment. Then Marion Kane's voice came back, and it was different, stripped of the clean certainty, the voice of a person who has just watched her map catch fire while she was still insisting it was the territory. Bracken, a pause. The model said it was fine. Every sensor I had said it was fine. I was looking at the same well you were looking at, and mine said it was fine. I know it did. There was no cruelty in it because he had been where she was, on the other end of it, 11 years ago, and he knew there was no punishment he could hand her worse than the one she was about to spend the rest of her life handing herself. That is the whole trap, Miss Kane. The screen is always so sure. It is built to be sure. It does not know what it does not know, and it will look you dead in the eye and swear the floor is solid right up until the floor is gone. The men on the steel are never that sure. They are scared and they are slow and they argue and they are almost never as clean as your model, and they are alive. And your model is a beautiful picture of a well that stopped existing an hour ago. He let that sit. Send the training request through when you are ready. I will teach your people the one thing your sensors never will, how to be afraid at the right time. He set the radio down. Below him, the water was going from black to gray, and the sun was starting to come. The story was already ahead of the relief crew. The way stories move on rigs faster than any boat. By the time the sun was up, every man on the Calypso knew that the deck monkey they had watched get a bucket of water kicked over on him at midnight was Jed Bracken, and that a clean screen on the beach had told them the well killing them was fine, and that an old man with a mop had been the only thing standing between the whole crew and a hole in the water where a rig used to be. Somewhere on shore, in a bright, dry room, a live model and 4 downhole sensors and a logbook full of a woman's calm refusals were being printed and time-stamped, and they were going to say, in numbers no one could argue with, exactly who had told 12 men to keep drilling. The crew did not make a fuss. Rigmen do not. But one by one, as they passed the old man, they found reasons to put a hand on his shoulder, or to say his name, or just to catch his eye and nod. And every one of those small things meant the same thing. I know what you did. I know what it cost you to still be able to do it. I will tell my kids about you. Brady Odell found him at the rail. The kid did not have words yet, so he just stood next to the old man and looked at the water. You sent me off the floor, Brady said finally. At the worst part, you could have used the hands. I had all the hands I needed. You sent me off so that if it went wrong on you and not on me. Yes, Jed said. I did. Brady was quiet a moment. My uncle would have liked you. The one who drilled 30 years. He would have said you are the kind of man the rigs used to make and stopped making. He wiped his eyes with the heel of his hand, embarrassed, young. Thank you for my Sunday, Mr. Bracken. Do not wait for Sunday. Go call your mother now, Jed said gently. Tell her the ocean tried, and it did not get you, because a stubborn old man would not let it. It was Corbin who came to him after that, when the relief crew had the floor and the sun was coming up gray over the water. The young supervisor looked 10 years older than he had at midnight. He stood in front of the old man he had kicked a bucket of water at 8 hours before, and he could not find the beginning of it. You tried to tell me, Corbin said, on the deck. You gave me 10 minutes and I gave you a bag to pack. Yes. Why did you come back up? I threw you off my floor in front of everybody. You could have been on the first boat. You did not owe this rig one single thing. Corbin's voice was raw. Why come back into that? And Jed Bracken looked out at the gray water for a moment, and then he told the truth, the whole of it, the thing he had not said out loud to another living person in 11 years, because the young man had asked it honestly, and the night had earned it. Because 11 years ago there was another well, and another man on a beach with clean data. And a company voice in my ear telling me the numbers said, it was fine. Keep drilling, do not lose the hole to nerves. Jed's jaw worked. And I was the man on the floor who knew better. I knew, my hands knew, and I let the voice on the beach talk me out of what my hands knew, because he had the title and I wanted to keep my job, and I stepped back. And I let a boy your friend's age throw a valve I should have thrown myself. And the well came up and it found a spark, and I buried 4 men, one of them 19 years old, and I have worn a watch that stopped that morning ever since, because that is when my time stopped mattering to me. He looked at Corbin. I did not come back up your stairs for you, son. I came back up because I have spent 11 years finding out exactly what it costs to be the man on the floor who knew better and stepped back anyway. And I was not going to pay that twice. Not with that boy over there expecting to see his mother Sunday. Corbin was quiet a long time. The sun was full up now, hard and gold on the water, and far below them the well sat shut in and sullen and beaten. "I have been a supervisor for 3 years," Corbin said finally. "They taught me the model. The permits, the tolerances, the numbers. Nobody ever taught me the thing you did tonight, the part where you feel it come up through the floor. I did not even know that was real. I thought it was something old men said to make themselves sound like more than a paycheck." He shook his head. "You gave me 10 minutes tonight, and I gave you a bag to pack. If you had done what any sane man would have done after that, if you had been on the first boat out, we would all be dead right now, every one of us, because I was too proud to listen to the deck monkey." "You are not the first man to trust the screen over the floor," Jed said. "You will not be the last. The only thing that matters is what you do the next time the floor and the screen disagree with each other. And there will be a next time. On a rig, there is always a next time." Then Corbin did the only thing there was left to do. He reached down and picked up the deck brush that was still leaning against the rail where Jed had set it 8 hours before, and he held it out to the old man, handle first, the way you return something to a person you finally understand you should never have taken it from. "They are going to want you to run well-controlled training for the whole company," Corbin said, "after tonight. You know that. You will never scrub another deck as long as you live, unless you choose to." "I know." Jed took the brush. He looked at it. "I might choose to some days. There is nothing wrong with a clean deck. And a man forgets things, up in the important rooms, that he remembers just fine when he is down on his knees with a brush." He almost smiled. "But not tomorrow. Tomorrow I am going home to make a girl some pancakes." Some nights the man scrubbing the deck is the only man who can save it. On the Calypso they would tell the story for 20 years. The deck monkey who turned out to be the one name the whole industry used to whisper, and every man who told it would end it the same way, with the part that mattered most, which was not that Jed Bracken was a legend. It was that he had been standing right there the whole time, and they had almost let a clean number on a dry screen talk them into not needing him. Jed walked to the rail as the crew boat came in on the gray morning swell. He took the watch out of his pocket, the one that had stopped at 11 minutes past 2:11 years ago. He looked at it for a long moment. Then, for the first time in 11 years, Jed Bracken wound his watch and set the hands and let it start keeping time again. Merle was watching him from a few feet off. The old derrickman had seen the watch come out, had seen a lot of things over 40 years, and he understood what he was looking at without being told, the way old hands understand each other. "That the one from the Ambrose well? That is the one. You have not run it in 11 years. "No," Jed said, "I have not." He watched the second hand move again, sweeping around the little dial like it had never stopped, like 11 years were nothing, like time was a thing that forgave a man if he finally did the hard thing right. "I think maybe it was waiting for tonight. I think maybe I was too." He called the number he always called. She picked up on the first ring. She had not gone to bed. Somehow she never did on the bad nights. "Dad?" "Hey, Junie." His voice was steady, and it was the truth. The well was talking. I listened this time. "You sound different. Are you okay?" "I am better than okay. I did a thing tonight I have been too scared to do for a long time." He watched the sun come the rest of the way up out of the water. "And a kid about your age reminded me why I still know how. His name is Brady. I will tell you all about him when I am home." "Is everybody okay?" "Everybody is going to see everybody again," Jed said. "That is the whole thing, Junie. That is the whole job. That is the only thing the job has ever been." He turned his face into the new sun. "Put the griddle out. I am coming home."